In the shadow-draped parking lot adjacent to the cinema, the warmth of a summer night wrapped around me, a solitary figure amidst an expanse of emptiness. The air, heavy with the scent of warm asphalt and the distant echo of laughter, carried no chill. Yet the solitude felt almost tangible. A companion in the quiet of the evening. Until that moment, the evening had meandered through a series of mundane events. But it was about to take a turn towards the extraordinary. From the depths of the surrounding darkness, two figures materialized, as if conjured by the night itself. Boys, they appeared to be. Not more than 10 years of age, cloaked in hoodies that seemed too large for their slender frames. One bore the rich, warm hue of olive skin, visible even under the scant lighting, while the other's complexion was pallid, almost ethereal, mirroring the haunting glow of moonlight. Their sudden appearance, emerging from the void, as if stepping through a portal from another realm, sent a shiver cascading down my spine. A reaction not to the chill of the night, but to the unsettling aura that enveloped them. The olive-skinned boy stepped forward, his movements eerily precise, almost mechanical, as if each step was calculated or preordained. "Could you possibly drive us home?" he inquired, his voice carrying a sense of urgency that seemed rehearsed, devoid of the natural inflections one might expect in such a plea. "We've forgotten to bring money from our mom to pay for the movie tickets." His words, though seemingly innocent, carried an undercurrent of something else. Something not quite right. Both boys stood rigidly, their faces partially obscured by the shadows cast from their hoodies. The darkness claimed more than half of their visages, rendering their expressions unreadable, adding to the air of mystery and unease that clung to them. Their eyes, hidden within the cavernous depths of their hoods, felt like voids pulling at the edges of my awareness, demanding attention, yet offering nothing in return. There is something profoundly disconcerting about their demeanor. They lacked the usual restless energy of boys their age, standing instead with an unsettling stillness that belied their youthful appearances. Their requests, while simple, were delivered with an emotionless, almost robotic cadence, further heightening the sense of unease that had taken hold of me. As I stood there, caught in the eerie tableau before me, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not merely being asked for a favor by two children in need, but being tested, measured in some unfathomable way by forces beyond my understanding. As their pleas intensified, transforming from mere requests into something bordering on aggressive demands, a deep-seated alarm blared within me. It wasn't just their words that unsettled me. It was the sudden shift in their demeanor. Their persistence morphed into a pressing insistence, their tones imbued with an urgency that felt almost threatening. The atmosphere thickened with an invisible tension, the air charged with a warning my instincts screamed to heed. Compelled by a forceful inner directive, I made a dash for my car. The gravel crunching under my hurried steps. My hands trembled as I fumbled for the door, the urgency to escape escalating with each passing second. Just as I swung the door open and was about to seal myself inside the relative safety of my vehicle, the olive-skinned boy lunged forward. His movement was swift, a startling contrast to his previous mechanical demeanor. He reached out, his hand landing with an unexpected force on the car door, stopping me mid-action. "You must invite us in. We cannot enter otherwise," he stated, his voice chillingly calm, yet laced with an underlying command. Reacting instinctively, I pushed his hand away, recoiling at the contact. His skin was ice-cold, the touch sending a jolt of sheer panic through my veins. It felt as though I had touched not a child, but a creature from another world, his hand devoid of any warmth or life. The encounter sent my heart racing, pounding against my rib cage, as if desperate to escape the horror of this encounter. With a surge of adrenaline fueling my actions, I slammed the car door shut, the sound reverberating ominously into the night's eerie silence. In a swift motion, I locked the doors, a feeble barrier between myself and the unknown. My hands, still trembling from the encounter, fumbled to start the engine. The familiar hum of the car starting offered a sliver of comfort, a reminder of the normal world I seemed to have momentarily stepped away from. As I stole a glance back at the boys through the rearview mirror, my heart froze. They had removed their hoods, revealing their faces fully for the first time. What I saw chilled me to the bone. Where their eyes should have been, there were only two abyssal voids, as black as the night that enveloped us. They were not just devoid of color, but of life itself, resembling black holes, ready to consume everything around them. Those dark voids watched me with an intensity that cut through the veil of darkness, an unspoken malice lurking within their depths. Their faces, now fully exposed to the dim light of the parking lot, were eerily placid, devoid of any human emotion. Yet, within those abyssal orbs where innocence should reside, an unsettling void echoed, harboring a malevolence unfit for any child's guise. The boys remained motionless, their gazes locked onto mine, with a precision that felt almost predatory. Despite the physical distance, their presence invaded the confines of my car, an intangible threat that no lock could deter. Their stares were unyielding, piercing through the barriers of reality and reason, leaving me with a palpable sense of vulnerability. With a decisive motion, I thrust the car into gear, my foot pressing down on the accelerator with a determination fueled by sheer panic. The vehicle lurched forward, propelling me away from the nightmarish scene behind me. The surge of adrenaline pumping through my veins seemed to dull the senses, rendering the car's powerful engine to nothing more than a background drone. A faint echo compared to the pounding of my heart. I risked a fleeting glance at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see those haunting figures in pursuit. But there was nothing. The parking lot, once a stage for that eerie encounter, was now just a void, its occupants seemingly erased by the cloak of night. They had disappeared as suddenly as they had appeared, leaving no trace but the chilling memory of their presence. This realization should have offered some comfort, yet it felt like a hollow victory. The absence of those figures did nothing to quell the storm of fear that raged within me. A tumultuous sea of dread that threatened to engulf my very being. Every rational thought was drowned out by the instinctive need to escape, to distance myself from the unimaginable reality I had just encountered. The darkness that enveloped the city seemed alive, a malevolent entity that concealed untold horrors just beyond the reach of the car's headlights. With each turn, each stretch of road conquered, I expected relief to set in, for the grip of fear to loosen. Instead, it clung tighter, a constant reminder of the fragility of the known world and the unfathomable mysteries that lurked in its shadows. The isolation of the empty streets amplified the sense of vulnerability. The eerie silence, a stark contrast to the chaos of emotions within. By the time I arrived home, the encounter had imprinted itself deeply within me. The cold sensation where the boy's hand brushed against mine lingered, as if his icy touch had penetrated my flesh, settling into my bones. It was an unnerving, constant reminder of an experience that defied any rational explanation. Alone, in the quiet of my own space, the memory caused my skin to crawl, a visceral reaction to the sheer unnaturalness of it all. Every attempt at a logical explanation disintegrated under the haunting weight of those inhuman, void-like eyes that had locked onto mine with an intensity that felt almost physical. It was as if they had the power to see into me, to know me in ways I couldn't understand, leaving a mark on my psyche that was indelible. The comfort of my familiar surroundings did little to ease the unsettling feeling that clung to me. A shadow cast by the memory of their gaze. As I sat there, trying to process the encounter, the feeling of being watched crept over me. A paranoia fueled by the night's events. Every creak and whisper of the house settling seemed amplified. A sinister orchestra playing just for me. The boundary between the known and the unknown felt thinner than ever. A gossamer veil that could be swept aside at any moment to reveal horrors beyond comprehension. The urge to dismiss it all as a product of overactive imagination battled with the undeniable reality of the fear that gripped me. Well into the night, an unexpected chime from my surveillance system jolted me back to the harsh reality. I leaned towards the monitors, squinting in the dim light, half expecting to catch the usual culprits. A wandering raccoon, or perhaps a curious feline adventurer. But the screens presented an undisturbed tableau. The backyard lay serene under a silvered wash of moonlight, untouched and still. Despite this apparent calm, a prickling sensation of unease crept up my spine, urging me closer to the expansive glass wall that stood as the only barrier between me and the enveloping darkness outside. My pulse quickened, heart pounding against my ribcage with a ferocity that drowned out the silence of the night. And then, emerging from the shadows cast by my home, a figure materialized. A child, cloaked in a hoodie, its face obscured by darkness, began to tap against the glass in a rhythmic, almost mechanical manner. "Who are you? What do you want?" I called out, my voice betraying a mix of curiosity and mounting dread, as I reached to flood the backyard with light. The figure halted its persistent knocking, remaining eerily still, before it slowly, almost theatrically, tilted its head upwards. Darkness. Where I expected to see a child's curious gaze, there were only abyssal pits, black as the void of space, consuming all traces of light, of life, of innocence. "I need help," emanated from the figure, its voice a chilling monotone that seemed to carry no trace of human warmth. "Let me in." A visceral terror gripped me, a scream trapped within, strangled by the thickening silence. "Stay there. I'm calling the police," I managed to stutter. Yet, this plea seemed to ignite a fury within the child. It began to hammer against the glass with clenched fists, issuing a demand, a plea, a threat. All entwined in the haunting refrain of, "Let me in. I need to come in." Each strike against the glass sent shivers down my spine, the sound echoing in the stillness, a sinister drumbeat that seemed to resonate with my very soul. I grappled with a rising panic, a sense of dread so intense it threatened to overwhelm my senses. The world around me narrowed to the point of singularity. The desperate, unyielding gaze of those pitch-black eyes, voids that promised an unknown so terrifying, so alien, it defied comprehension. Clutching my phone with trembling hands, I dialed for help, every ring echoing in my ears like a countdown to an inevitable confrontation. The pounding stopped suddenly, leaving behind a silence so deep it felt like a new fear. I dared not blink. My gaze locked on the spot where the child had been. But when I finally mustered the courage to look again, there was nothing. An emptiness hung in the air, a void left by the child's absence that was somehow more terrifying than its presence. Trembling, I navigated back to the surveillance system, a sense of dread knotting in my stomach as I clicked through to review the footage. My hands were shaky, the mouse cursor on the screen mirroring my internal turmoil as it hovered over the play button. I didn't know what I was hoping to find, or perhaps more accurately, I was afraid of what the footage might reveal. With a hesitant click, the video began to play, casting the dimly lit room in the ghostly glow of the monitor. The backyard, serene under the night's embrace, unfolded on the screen. I scrutinized every corner, every shadow, for a sign of the child, who had just moments ago stood knocking, demanding entry with an intensity that had chilled me to the bone. But the screen showed only the empty yard, the grass gently swaying in the night's breeze, undisturbed. The trees stood as silent sentinels, their branches occasionally stirring, casting shifting patterns on the ground that danced like phantoms in the night. I scrubbed through the timeline, back and forth, my eyes darting across the screen, searching for any anomaly, any sign of the child's presence. But there was nothing. No figure approached the house. No child stood knocking at the glass. No evidence of the terror that had unfolded just beyond the walls of my home. It was as if the night had opened up and swallowed the child whole, erasing their existence from the physical world and leaving behind only the haunting memory in my mind. A cold shiver ran down my spine as I faced the unsettling realization that the surveillance system, designed to capture and document reality, offered no validation of my experience. The stark contrast between the fear that gripped me and the serene imagery displayed on the monitor only deepened the surreal nightmare I found myself in. The night, once a canvas of calm, now seemed to conceal depths unfathomable, hiding secrets that my mind struggled to comprehend. The absence of evidence on the footage left me with more questions than answers. A sense of isolation wrapping around me like a shroud. Sitting in the echoing silence of my home, I questioned my sanity. Had fear conjured these phantoms? Or had I glimpsed something beyond understanding? Something dark and inexplicable, lurking on the threshold of our world.